Have you ever noticed that even when someone is kind to you, patient with you, loyal to you, a small voice inside still whispers, "Be careful"? They haven't done anything wrong. They haven't betrayed you. They haven't lied. And yet your chest tightens. Your mind scans for hidden motives. You wait for the moment when they will change. You don't want to feel this way. You want to relax. You want to trust. You want to believe that not everyone is going to hurt you. But something inside you refuses. Something inside you keeps you alert, guarded, slightly distant. And the most confusing part is this. Sometimes the better they treat you, the more uncomfortable you feel. This isn't because you are ungrateful. It isn't because you are negative. And it definitely isn't because you enjoy being alone. It's because your nervous system learned a long time ago that safety is temporary. Trust is not just a decision. It's not something you switch on like a light. Trust is a biological response. It is your body relaxing in someone's presence. It is your shoulders dropping. It is your breath slowing down. It is your mind not scanning for danger. If your past taught you that closeness leads to pain, then your body will resist closeness even when your mind says, "This person is good." Many people who struggle with trust don't struggle because of what is happening now. They struggle because of what happened before. Sometimes it was obvious trauma, betrayal, abandonment, emotional neglect, broken promises. Sometimes it was subtle, inconsistent love, unpredictable moods, affection that depended on performance. When love is inconsistent, your brain learns a dangerous lesson. Good moments do not mean safety. They mean preparation. They mean the fall is coming. Imagine a child who receives warmth one day and cold silence the next. A child who is praised one week and criticized harshly the next. A child who is told, "I love you," but also made to feel like a burden. That child learns to stay alert. That child learns that affection can disappear without warning. And that child grows up into an adult who struggles to believe that kindness can stay. You might not even consciously remember when this learning happened, but your nervous system remembers. Your body remembers the tension, the waiting, the unpredictability. So when someone good enters your life, your system does not say, "Finally." It says, "Let's see how long this lasts." This is called protective anticipation. You expect hurt before it happens so that when it does, it won't shock you as much. You would rather be slightly anxious all the time than completely blindsided once. Trust requires vulnerability. Vulnerability requires the belief that if something goes wrong, you will survive it. But if your past made pain feel unbearable, then your brain will try to prevent you from ever feeling that exposed again. That's why sometimes you push people away without meaning to. You overanalyze their texts. You look for changes in tone. You assume distance when there is none. You test them. You withdraw slightly to see if they chase you. You prepare exit plans in your head. It doesn't feel dramatic. It feels logical. It feels smart. Because once upon a time it was. At some point in your life, mistrust protected you. It helped you read between the lines. It helped you survive emotional unpredictability. It helped you avoid disappointment. The problem is that the strategies that protect you from harm also protect you from connection. When someone is genuinely good to you, your system might interpret it as unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels unsafe, even if it is healthy. If chaos was normal for you, calm can feel suspicious. If criticism was common, kindness can feel fake. If affection was withdrawn suddenly in the past, consistency can feel like a trap waiting to close. This creates an internal conflict. Part of you wants closeness, another part wants distance. One part says, "They're different." The other says, "Don't be stupid." And the second voice often wins. There is also another layer to this. Sometimes you don't trust people because deep down, you don't fully trust yourself. If you were once manipulated, you might question your judgment. You might think, "Last time I thought someone was good, I was wrong." So now you don't just doubt others. You doubt your ability to choose well. That self-doubt fuels mistrust, because trusting someone requires trusting your perception of them. If your confidence in your own intuition was shaken, then every new connection feels like a potential mistake. There is also the fear of dependency. When someone is good to you, you start caring. When you start caring, you risk losing, and loss hurts. So sometimes you unconsciously limit how much you let yourself attach. You keep one foot outside the door. You never give 100%. You stay emotionally prepared to leave. You tell yourself you are independent, strong, self-sufficient. But sometimes it's not independence, it's self-protection. And self-protection is not weakness. It's a sign that you have been hurt before. Another reason you might struggle to trust good people is because goodness feels undeserved. If you grew up feeling not enough, not smart enough, not lovable enough, not important enough, then when someone treats you with deep care, it creates discomfort. Because it doesn't match your internal story. If your inner belief says, people eventually leave me, then someone staying feels temporary. If your inner belief says, I'm hard to love, then someone loving you feels like a mistake waiting to be corrected. So instead of relaxing into the love, you brace for the correction. This bracing becomes a habit, a lifestyle, a personality trait. People might describe you as guarded, reserved, hard to read, independent, careful. But underneath that carefulness is often a history of emotional unpredictability. Trust is not built by words alone. It is built by repeated experiences of safety, consistency, repair after conflict, emotional availability. If you didn't receive enough of that in the past, your system simply needs more time now. The issue is that modern relationships move fast, feelings develop quickly, expectations grow quickly, but your nervous system does not operate on speed, it operates on evidence. And evidence requires repetition. If someone is good to you for a week, your system says, too early. If they are good for a month, it says, let's wait. If they are good for 6 months, it slowly starts to soften. But even then, a small mistake can reactivate old fear. This doesn't mean you are broken. It means your brain is prioritizing survival over connection. There is also the reality that trusting someone means accepting that they are human, and humans make mistakes. If your past experiences made mistakes feel catastrophic, then even small flaws in someone new can feel like red flags. You might end relationships over things that could have been conversations. You might interpret minor misunderstandings as proof of future betrayal, because your system is scanning for patterns that match the past. And it will often find them, even if they are not truly there. The mind is incredibly good at confirming what it already believes. If it believes, people hurt me, it will highlight every tiny behavior that supports that belief. If it believes, good things don't last, it will treat happiness as fragile and temporary. But here is something important. Mistrust is not always irrational. Sometimes it is intuition. Sometimes people are not safe. The difficulty lies in distinguishing between intuition and trauma response. Intuition feels calm but clear. Trauma response feels urgent and anxious. Intuition whispers, trauma screams. If someone truly disrespects your boundaries, lies, manipulates, or consistently invalidates you, mistrust is wisdom. But if someone consistently shows up, communicates openly, respects you, and you still feel intense fear, that might not be about them. That might be about old wounds being activated. And this is where healing begins. Healing does not mean forcing yourself to trust blindly. It means slowly teaching your nervous system that not all closeness equals danger. It means allowing small amounts of vulnerability and observing the outcome. It means noticing when your mind jumps to worst-case scenarios and gently questioning it. It means separating the present from the past. Because the truth is, If you never risk trusting, you never risk being hurt. But you also never risk being deeply loved. And deep love always carries risk. The goal is not to eliminate risk. The goal is to build resilience, to know that even if something ends, you will survive it. Many people who cannot trust good partners are not afraid of betrayal itself. They are afraid of how much it would break them. They remember how long it took to recover last time, how deeply it affected their confidence, their identity, their peace. So now they try to prevent that level of pain from ever happening again. But the attempt to avoid pain often creates loneliness. You might sit next to someone who cares about you and still feel emotionally alone, because you are not fully letting them in. You might crave reassurance but feel uncomfortable when you receive it. You might want consistency but distrust it when it appears. This internal contradiction can be exhausting. You start questioning yourself. Why am I like this? Why can't I just be normal? Why can't I enjoy something good? But you are not abnormal, you are patterned. And patterns can be understood. The first step in changing this pattern is awareness. Not shame, not self-criticism, just awareness. Notice when you feel suspicious. Notice when your body tightens. Notice when you assume negative intentions without clear evidence. Ask yourself gently, is this about now or is this about before? Sometimes the answer will surprise you. You might realize that your reaction is bigger than the situation. You might realize that a delayed reply triggered an old memory of being ignored. You might realize that a small disagreement felt like the beginning of abandonment because that's how it used to start. These realizations are not weaknesses, they are breakthroughs. Because once you see the origin, you can respond instead of react. And slowly, very slowly, trust becomes possible again. Not blind trust, not naive trust, but conscious trust. The kind built with open eyes, steady boundaries, and self-respect. And that kind of trust is not fragile. It is earned. When you grow up in an environment where love felt unpredictable, where affection came with conditions, or where emotional safety was never guaranteed, your nervous system learns a silent rule. Never relax completely around anyone. Even if people smile at you, support you, or treat you kindly, something inside you stays alert. It scans their tone, their pauses, their small changes in behavior. It waits for the moment when kindness turns into criticism, when warmth turns into withdrawal. This reaction is not because you are negative or ungrateful. It is because your mind was trained to associate closeness with danger. And once that association is built in childhood, it does not disappear just because you grow older. As a child, you did not have the power to leave unsafe emotional situations. If the people who were supposed to protect you were inconsistent, emotionally distant, overly critical, or unpredictable, your brain had to adapt. It created protection strategies. Maybe you became hyperaware of moods. Maybe you learned to stay quiet. Maybe you stopped sharing your feelings because they were ignored or mocked. Maybe love felt like something that could be taken away at any moment. These adaptations helped you survive. They were intelligent responses to your environment. But now, in adulthood, those same strategies quietly sabotage your relationships. When someone is good to you today, your mind does not simply see their kindness. It compares it to old memories. It asks, what do they really want? Or how long will this last? You may feel suspicious of compliments. You may struggle to believe that someone genuinely cares without hidden motives. You may even feel uncomfortable when someone treats you well, because your system is more familiar with tension than with peace. Peace feels foreign, and what feels foreign can feel unsafe. Trust is not just a decision, it is a biological process. Your nervous system needs evidence of safety over time, but if you grew up needing to be on guard, your baseline state may still be vigilance. This means even neutral situations can feel threatening. A delayed reply to a message can trigger anxiety. A slight change in tone can feel like rejection. You might find yourself overanalyzing conversations long after they end. You replay words. You search for hidden meanings. You prepare for disappointment before it even happens. This constant mental scanning is exhausting, yet it feels necessary because your body believes it is protecting you. There is also the fear of betrayal. If you have experienced emotional betrayal before, whether through broken promises, abandonment, manipulation, or inconsistency, you may carry a deep belief that people eventually leave or hurt you. So instead of risking that pain again, you create emotional distance. You might keep conversations surface level. You might avoid fully expressing your needs. You might act independent even when you crave connection. It feels safer to need no one than to risk being let down. But the cost of this safety is loneliness. Sometimes the distrust is not loud. It does not look like accusations or arguments. It looks like hesitation. It looks like holding back. It looks like never fully relaxing around someone. Even in healthy relationships, you may feel like you are waiting for the other shoe to drop. You may struggle to accept consistency because part of you expects inconsistency. If someone shows up for you repeatedly, you may wonder when they will get tired. If someone loves you openly, you may question whether you deserve it. The problem is not their behavior. It is the old belief that says love is unstable. Another layer of this struggle is self-trust. Often, difficulty trusting others is connected to difficulty trusting yourself. If, as a child, your feelings were dismissed or invalidated, you may have learned to doubt your own perceptions. You might question whether you are overreacting or being too sensitive. So in relationships, you swing between extremes. Either you ignore red flags because you think you are imagining them, or you see red flags everywhere because you fear being blindsided again. Without strong self-trust, external trust feels impossible. There is also shame. Deep down, you may believe that if people truly knew you, they would not stay. This belief often forms in environments where love felt conditional on performance, obedience, or perfection. If you were praised only when you succeeded or criticized harshly when you failed, you may have internalized the idea that your worth depends on what you provide. So when someone treats you well without demanding anything, it feels suspicious. You might think, they just don't know the real me yet. This creates a barrier to intimacy, because true intimacy requires being seen. Your body may also confuse intensity with love. If your early experiences of connection were mixed with drama, unpredictability, or emotional highs and lows, calm relationships can feel boring. You might unconsciously gravitate toward people who trigger familiar anxiety because that anxiety feels like chemistry. Meanwhile, stable and kind individuals might feel less exciting. This pattern reinforces distrust because chaotic dynamics confirm your belief that people cannot be relied upon. It becomes a self-fulfilling cycle. Healing this pattern does not begin with forcing yourself to trust blindly. It begins with understanding that your distrust once protected you. Instead of shamming yourself for being guarded, you can start by acknowledging that your mind is trying to keep you safe. The goal is not to remove protection but to update it. You are no longer the child who had no control. You are now someone with choices, boundaries, and awareness. Trust does not mean ignoring red flags. It means learning to distinguish between real danger and old fear. One of the most powerful shifts happens when you slow down your reactions. When you feel triggered, when someone's small action creates a big emotional response, you can pause and ask yourself whether this feeling belongs entirely to the present moment. Often, the intensity reveals that the reaction is layered with past experiences. This awareness alone can reduce the automatic urge to withdraw or attack. It creates space between stimulus and response. In that space, trust can slowly grow. Consistency is the medicine for distrust. Your nervous system needs repeated experiences of safety. That means allowing trustworthy people to show up for you again and again. It means giving relationships time. It means noticing patterns instead of isolated moments. If someone apologizes and changes their behavior consistently, that is evidence. If someone respects your boundaries repeatedly, that is evidence. Trust is built through data, not through hope alone. It is also important to communicate your fears instead of hiding them. This does not mean accusing others of things they have not done. It means expressing vulnerability. saying, "Sometimes I struggle with trusting people because of past experiences," opens the door for understanding. Healthy individuals will not mock or punish that honesty. They will respond with reassurance and patience. Each time your vulnerability is met with care instead of rejection, your internal belief system begins to shift. Boundaries play a crucial role in rebuilding trust. Many people who struggle with trust either have very rigid walls or very weak boundaries. Both extremes come from fear. Healthy boundaries allow you to protect yourself without shutting people out completely. They give you a sense of control. When you know you can say no, when you know you can walk away if necessary, trusting becomes less terrifying. You are not trapped. You are choosing connection, not depending on it for survival. Another essential step is grieving. If your distrust comes from real betrayal or emotional neglect, there is pain that needs acknowledgement. Sometimes we rush toward fixing ourselves without allowing space to feel what was lost. Maybe you lost the chance to feel safe as a child. Maybe you lost trust in someone you deeply loved. Grief honors that reality. It validates that your guard did not appear out of nowhere. It formed for a reason. Over time, as you practice awareness, communication, and boundaries, you may notice small shifts. You may find yourself relaxing slightly during conversations. You may catch yourself before assuming the worst. You may start believing compliments without immediately doubting them. These changes are subtle but powerful. Trust does not usually arrive as a dramatic breakthrough. It grows quietly, through repeated safe experiences. It is also important to remember that not everyone deserves your trust. Part of healing is learning discernment. Trusting wisely is different from trusting blindly. When you pay attention to actions instead of words, when you observe how someone handles conflict, when you notice whether they respect your boundaries, you gather information. Healthy trust is built on evidence and mutual respect, not on fantasy or fear. You are not broken because you struggle to trust. You adapted to survive. But survival mode is not meant to be permanent. You deserve relationships where you can breathe, where your nervous system is not constantly on alert, where kindness does not feel suspicious. That kind of connection is possible, but it requires patience with yourself. It requires compassion for the parts of you that still expect harm. In the end, learning to trust again is less about other people and more about rebuilding your relationship with yourself. When you trust your judgment, when you honor your boundaries, when you validate your feelings, the world becomes less threatening. You no longer need to control every outcome because you know you can handle discomfort if it arises. That confidence changes everything. It softens your defenses. It allows warmth to enter slowly. And one day you may realize that you are sitting with someone, laughing, sharing honestly, and for a brief moment you are not scanning for danger. You are not preparing for betrayal. You are simply present. That moment is proof that healing is happening. It does not mean fear will never return. It means fear no longer controls you. Trust, once impossible, becomes something you can practice. And with practice, it becomes something you can finally feel.